on, Big Steppers? Welcome to the Get This Steppin' podcast. I'm your host, S2, and we about to get this stepping, get this stepping, get this stepping. Hey, so I know you read the title, and some of you might be thinking, like, Kamala Harris isn't black. She is black. Does it even matter if she is black? Like, who cares, right? But let me tell you what, for one, it does matter if Kamala Harris is black, like as an African American black, and just black in general, as in the color black. But the reason why it matters is because that's why we're being, that's why a lot of people are voting for her, just because of the, skin complexion within itself. So I think it does matter. If you're not familiar, Janet Jackson was recently asked, what did she think about, having the first potential black lady president? And she said she didn't know she was black, right? Like she was trying to figure out if she was black or if she was Irish. I didn't know that they said she was Irish. I thought Kamala Harris was just you know, was just a Jamaican. I thought she was like a Jamaican and like Indian or something like that, right? Which here's my thing when it comes to like, all right, here's my thing when it comes to being Jamaican or whatever it is. I'm like torn with, because I'm like, actually this comment sums it up perfect, right? So this comment that I actually saw, it sums it up perfectly. This person on one of the videos, I don't know if you guys seen it, but it was a video that I posted about the racial wealth gap in America. And there was like a few videos, but I was reading some of the comments. I do be tuning in and tapping into your comments. So leave a comment and a like for the algorithm, you know what I'm saying? But that being said, this is on YouTube, and I appreciate you guys tuning in on other platforms. But so this guy says, I agree with your black take. And this, like my black take is basically something like this. You about to see what he says. So he says, I agree with your black take. As a Haitian, I always had a strong relationship with it. For I never knew how properly address African Americans. Do I call them Black, American, Africans, or African American? I always identified as Haitian, African, or melanated, but never associated myself as a crayon color. So I feel like that's something that as us as Black people, we really have to do something. Really have to do better at figuring out exactly who we are because we really don't know who we are. We're approaching ourselves as a color. So when we look at Kamala Harris and we're excited about voting for her because she's the same color as us, which color means nothing about ethnicity, it means nothing about how you were raised, it means nothing about culture, it means nothing about any of these things. But come to find out, she may not even be actually black. She might just be Irish. So we're about to get into that. She might just be Irish. But we're about to get into that. Candace Owens breaks it down very well. But let me get into this other comment that another one you guys left as well. Like I said, leave a like and also leave comments because I do be reading. So check this out. Somebody else, they break it down way more. Like I said, it's different. People say Kamala is black because her father is Jamaican. That's not black. That's not the black that I feel. And us as black people, we don't even have enough self-awareness about ourselves to actually distinguish what it means. But this comment breaks it down perfectly. Check this out. So this comment on one of the videos that we posted, they say for so long the term black was only African American niggas. So with the foundation of this country being race, they didn't have to mitigate on lineage because if you was black, you was niggas. But we didn't start to have a heavy migration of different kinds of blacks until the 80s because they didn't really want to be here, seeing how violently racist it was in previous years, which leads into today. Now that we do have so many different lineage of people, the term black is an umbrella term. And we have to figure out a way to differentiate Americans, blacks who came from slaves and the blacks who migrated here, while simultaneously not separating us socially. There are movements that are currently trying to redefine the term like the ADOS, I never knew about this, but American Descendants of Slaves and the FBA, Foundational Black Americans. So I never knew about those movements. Shout out to this person, and that was like a W comment because they really put me on game. I know about a lot of that stuff. But I'm glad to see that there's people out there that share that same sentiment as me because it's something that really frustrates me. And it's something that I didn't really recognize until I got older because it's like us as black people again, it's like we're not really self-aware of ourselves. Even the most pro-black person, like they're gonna vote for Kamala just because of a skin complexion. It's like, bro, like she's not black, but at the same time, like this person said, it's not to separate us like even with the Haitians out in Springfield, Ohio, I made that video the other day. I'm not saying that like separating them, even if there's people out there that are eating ducks or that's whatever they may be doing. I don't know. But my point is, the person in that video, they said that this is what Martin Luther King fought for. Martin Luther King fought for all of us to be able to be included and not be racist. I'm like, wait a minute. That wasn't Martin Luther King's dream. Martin Luther King's dream was about African American descendants of slaves. He was not talking about Haitians, Jamaicans, or whatever else it may be. And I feel like as people, we're not really recognizing that as a difference. We don't really care to, is what I feel like. I mean, maybe us as in general we don't, but as a singular level, and apparently there's other people out there that share the same sentiment that I have. I'm really passionate about this. And that's really good to see because I think this word got to really be spread out there like, yo, it's a difference. Now, that being said, despite me, being gun ho about the difference between regular blacks and Jamaican blacks and whatever, in the eyes of the opposite race, be it white, Asian, or whatever else, we all black, right? Still nigga, like Jay-Z said. So I respect that. But that being said, that's the only thing. Somebody asked me the other day, said, do you feel like you have a more relatable experience with Kamala Harris growing up, or your experience is more relatable with Donald Trump growing up? For me, the answer was simple. My experience is way more relatable with Kamala Harris, right? Because they were like, I feel like you leaning more Trump, I'm like, whatever. But they said, I was like, yo, my experience is way more familiar with Kamala Harris, like way more. That being said, when it comes to Kamala Harris, I want to vote for her, align with her just because of her color, pigmentation. But I do recognize that just because she is a light-skinned American, people look at her more similar, and her growing up was way more similar than me and my experience relating to Donald Trump. Now, that being, if Kamala Harris is not black at all, which we're about to get into it because this is actually some crazy stuff that I discovered. Candace Owens is coming. I'm just watching it. So we're about to get into it, but it's really crazy. So we're about to get into it right now. Actually, I'm gonna stop talking about it. This is what the episode is about. There's two different ones. But like I said, this is brace yourselves because I feel like this is actually crazy. All right, right about now. Shout out to Candace Owens, y'all. Make sure y'all tune in. Tap in with her. Her YouTube, Candace Owens.
Happy Tuesday. I can tell you guys one thing. The powers that be really did not like our episode yesterday because after we crossed.
All right, here we go.
Well, happy Tuesday. I can tell you guys one thing. The powers that be really did not like our episode yesterday because after we crossed 500,000 views in less than 5 hours, suddenly we got hit on YouTube with this bizarre age restriction. We've never been hit with that ever before. It said that we somehow violated the policy on graphic violence and nudity. I mean, what? We literally just read Kamala's book and pointed out a major discrepancy. Mainly that her grandmother, who she produced a photo of herself with, happened to die before Kamala was born. So yeah, seems a little odd.
So that was like Kamala Harris' supposedly paternal grandmother. And this is supposed to be her like real grandmother, but she did some research, Candace Owens, and found out the grandmother that she's showing us is actually dead. Is actually dead. So she died before she was like alive or whatever. But she gonna break it down way better than me.
Happened to die before Kamala was born. So yeah, seems a little odd. Just asking questions here. Well, today we were able to secure the birth certificates and the death certificates and some marriage certificates, which confirm that Kamala either made a huge mistake all by accident, or she outright lied because she wanted to convince the public that she was black. Do not go away, you guys, because this is about to get crazy. Welcome back to Candace. All right, so let's recap. Yesterday, I can admit I was completely triggered. I was triggered by the manner in which the Guardian, or a Guardian reporter rather, treated Janet Jackson in a profile piece. It was very obvious they were trying to do the wacko jacko bit again, like they did with her brother. So to remind you, Janet Jackson brought up in her interview human trafficking, child trafficking, and the journalist then decided to heavily imply that Janet Jackson was just nuts to pretend that we have a child trafficking issue in this country. And then when the reporter switched gears and asked her about supporting Kamala Harris as the first female black president, Hollywood's all got to get in line and support this woman or else, Janet Jackson simply said that she had heard that Kamala was not black and that she was in fact Irish, and the media, predictably, went completely crazy. I mean, here are some of the headlines here. NBC, Janet Jackson tells interviewer she's heard Kamala Harris is not black, echoing election disinformation. Oh, love that word. Newsweek, Janet Jackson's Kamala Harris remarks spark black backlash. The Independent, she's not black.
Look at this. From one person just saying what they heard. She didn't even say that she wasn't. She said she heard she wasn't. But, this is what they jumped out and said. This is all the established media. Let's keep going.
Janet Jackson makes shocking comments about Kamala Harris's heritage. And of course, the New York Times, Janet Jackson repeats false claims about Kamala Harris's race. False claims. So to be clear, all Janet Jackson said was, quote, "That's what I heard, that she's Indian, that her father's white. That's what I was told. I mean, I haven't watched the news in a few days. I was told that they discovered that her father was white." Okay? That is all that she said that led to all of this craziness in the media trying to paint her like she was some sort of a psycho. And then her manager, a guy named Mo El-Marzi that I'm showing you a picture of here, he offered an apology on Janet Jackson's behalf to BuzzFeed. He said, quote, "Janet Jackson would like to clarify her recent comments. She recognizes that her statements regarding Vice President Kamala Harris's racial identity were based on misinformation. Janet respects Harris's dual heritage as both Black and Indian and apologizes for any confusion caused. She values the diversity that Harris represents and understands the importance of celebrating that in today's society. Janet remains committed to promoting unity and understanding," end quote. And guess what happened? Janet Jackson fired him immediately and said that he was not authorized to make that statement at all. And she was not apologizing because she was not sorry, and good for her. I'm glad she fired him. I am so tired of people being so fake.
So the manager tried to come up and basically excuse what she said to appease the public. But shout out to Janet Jackson for standing on business, standing on what she believed in. And that's the thing, this group thought, this group think, this sheep mentality when it comes to people in politics and people in general, but especially people in politics when it comes to like on both sides. But it's important to be able to have your own opinion. And for, granted, they got a bigger public eye on them, so it's gonna be a lot of backlash. But for her to stand up and be like, yo, that's what I meant. I said what I meant. Just because I'm supposed to follow some agenda, like, nah, I don't get that she's actually black. Like that, you trying to just put us on that she black. But let's keep saying, let's you know what I'm saying, let's see what's up.
Having to apologize for something that should not have yielded any response from the media. In fact, it should have been the opposite. They should have went ahead and investigated the claim that Kamala Harris is black, gotten to the bottom of it fully. But instead, it was a media pylon. And then after being fired, Mo added to that pylon by referring to Janet Jackson as unbalanced. Like the person who just worked for her came out and was like, she's unbalanced. I mean, with friends like that, who needs enemies?
Thanks.
Then came me. I don't know. I guess I really am the person that has been in these streets, Kamala, because I decided to simply look into her genealogy, because why on earth is the world trying to convince me that this woman is suddenly black? Like they just decided she was black because she's running and because there is evidence, it is true, that her father grew up in Jamaica. Your race does not magically change because of where you grow up, okay? If I grow up in Sweden, I don't get to suddenly say I'm white, okay? And what I discovered was quite startling. Now, I'll ask you, when did you first get the idea that Kamala was black? Well, you'll say, yeah, when she kind of started running with Joe Biden. And that claim really came from Kamala herself. When they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, they understood that Kamala Harris published a book in 2019 called The Truth That We Hold. And presumably the book was filled with truth that she was holding. I had a look through it and I saw this picture of her and her grandmother, clearly a black-looking grandmother, on page 282 in the photograph section. It reads, as you can see, visiting my paternal grandmother, Beryl, in Jamaica. Also on that same page, there's another photo of her. Again, you can see it's black and white. I'm not quite sure why it is black and white, but it says, when I was 10 months old, I visited Spanish Town, Jamaica. This is me with my mother and my paternal grandfather, Oscar Joseph. And now this guy looks mixed. He looks Asian of some description, but you can see the idea here is that she's definitely trying to introduce, in a manner of photos, things that make her race look more complicated. So I just decided to investigate that, and immediately things got weird.
A complicated race. That is how you can put that though, because like you can kind of bro ain't look all the way like a nigga, but at the same time he didn't look like a white dude either. So like it's like what is he?
Weird, very weird. First and foremost, because it was very easy for me to determine via just a light search online that Beryl, her alleged paternal grandmother that you just saw, died 4 years before Kamala was born in 1960.
Her grandmother died before she was born, and they put this. Bro, hold up.
So last night we decided to continue our research to see if we could find birth certificates and marriage certificates and death certificates, which could further signify those points. And indeed it did. And it also raised even more questions about her genealogy. So let's go through those. Here is the birth certificate for her paternal grandmother. This is Kamala's paternal grandmother, Beryl. Okay, now you can see on this birth certificate that Beryl is spelled with an I. It's Beryl Magdalene. And you can see the reason why we know this is the correct Beryl is
She did real research, bro. Like y'all better get off Candace, bro. She do real research.
because the mother is listed as Iris Finnegan. Later on, we're going to show you in the book, she names Iris Finnegan as her great grandmother. So that would be Beryl's mother. So we have the right woman. Also, formerly, her maiden name is Allen. That is true. It also says here that she's born in October of 1917 in St. Anne. That's the St. Anne parish of Jamaica. And again, you can see it says that it is signed by Iris Finnegan. Very clearly, this is the woman that we are looking for. This is Kamala's grandmother, alleged grandmother, Beryl. It's also interesting, by the way, that it lists her great-grandmother as a seamstress because Donald Harris, Kamala's father, wrote in a 2020 piece called Reflections of a Jamaican Father, quote, Miss Iris, that again would be his grandmother, was the mother of 8 children, too, was the sweetest and gentlest person one could meet, but underneath it was a tough farming woman who ran the cane farm at Thatch Walk near Annan Town, jointly owned with her husband, Mr. Christie. Okay, that's weird. So you're telling me that she ran a farm because on that birth certificate it says that actually Iris was a seamstress, but whatever. Let's just park that aside for a second and stick with Beryl.
So I don't have kids, but y'all help me out. So on every birth certificate, does it say your occupation, or is that like some like over the seas stuff? I don't think on my birth certificate it showed my parents' occupation. I don't know, but let's keep watching. This is not about me.
This woman who died before Kamala was born. Okay,
I'm just trying to figure out though, because we got to make sure it's Candace. It's Candace coming with the facts. I know the better the doubter, so I'm sure she is, but I'm just trying to figure it out.
Because I was feeling pretty certain that not too many people were going to be named Beryl and be born in the St. Anne parish of Jamaica in 1917 to a mother named Iris Finnegan. I felt confident that we could find a little bit more data, and in fact, we did. Okay. First, we stumbled across Beryl's marriage certificate. Okay, so you can see that right here. And now the name spelling has changed. You have Beryl Finnegan spelled with a Y in the same way that Kamala spells it. And it lists their married date as 1944. Again, you can see the parish that is listed is St. Anne Parish. This is where every piece of Beryl's life seems to take place. It reads here that her calling is a barmaid. And something that jumped out at me was the fact that she's married to someone, as you can see, named Lawford Newland. Okay, so Beryl apparently was married more than once because Lawford Newland is not Donald Harris's father, but Beryl is his mother. So just to be clear, again, it says that she married a guy named Lawford Newland in 1944. When she was 25 years old, okay? It's important to note that that would have been 4 years after she gave birth to Donald Harris, Kamala's father. I find that to be very strange. Also, regarding Kamala's father, we cannot...
Well, I mean, she's saying that it's strange that she got married to somebody else after her father was born. I'm trying to figure out where she's going with this. Let's see.
Seem to locate, regarding Lawland Newland, the person that she married, we can't find him. Can't find him anywhere. We cannot find a birth certificate. We cannot find a death certificate. We can't find a news item or otherwise. I cannot find this alleged Lawford Newland that apparently her grandma got married to.
Hmm.
We also can't find a wedding certificate for Beryl and Oscar Wilde Joseph Brown Harris. That is allegedly supposed to be Donald Harris's father. Okay, so Kamala's grandfather is Oscar Wilde Joseph Brown Harris, and we can't find a marriage certificate between the two of them. That's very strange. As speculated, we were able to confirm that Kamala's Black grandmother that she showed us in that picture died in 1960, before Kamala was born. I can show you right now her death certificate. Let's take a look at Beryl's death certificate,
Oh,
which confirms, as you can see
well, she comes with the facts. She said it, but like, how she get this? That's crazy. No, that's actually crazy though. Like, so she just showed it. So that wasn't her grandma. That's crazy.
there. It says that she died in July of 1960. It also tells us on the right-hand side, you guys will probably have to zoom in on this, but she died of a uterine infection, uterine fibroids due to a hysterectomy. It has her listed as 39 years. That's actually a couple of years off from 1917, so somebody may have gotten their math wrong here. But you once again see that it lists her birthplace as Saint Anne. And so this is a huge
That's crazy.
scandal. Just an absolutely huge scandal.
Yo, so y'all watching this? Do you think this would be like news or something? Like, she says breaking news, right? But like, this isn't news. And why do y'all think that is? Like, do you think it's like uncomfortable for most white people to ask about like the ethnicity of a colored person? Because they just assume that they're black, so it's a colored person. So like, that could be considered racist, right? Especially in the era that we live in. Like, if a white person was like, when I say white people, I mean like on the news, the anchors were just like, is Kamala Harris really black? And they're like, everybody be like, yo, you racist? Like, I feel like that's the only reason why this isn't big news, because some people be like, well, it doesn't really matter what color she is. Like, people live in that crazy world, and it doesn't even matter. I don't see color. I don't like, bro, we all see color. Like, let's not go there. But the point is, I feel like this is relevant, crazy news. And the fact that she lied about it is even crazier. But like, this isn't headlines. Like, what did you see on the news this morning? What did you like, depending on what side of the country that you're in? I guarantee you at least heard about the wars overseas, right? Almost every day we're being bombarded about something going on in Israel, Gaza, or whatever. Why isn't stuff like this on your common news network, right? I think we all know why.
Kamala Harris published in her book that she was standing next to her grandma Beryl. But Grandma Beryl died in 1960, 4 years before Kamala Harris was born. So who the hell is the real Beryl? Who is that woman standing next to Kamala Harris? And do you know what I noticed about that woman standing next to her? She looks a lot like the woman that Kamala claims in her book is her great-grandmother, Iris. Now, that's Iris Finnegan. Here's the book with my great-grandmother, Iris Finnegan, in Jamaica. Now, I'm going to give you the side-by-side of Iris and her alleged daughter.
Yo, what y'all think? What y'all think in the chat, yo? Y'all think they look alike? If this is, she have to be way older though. That wouldn't make sense, because this is Kamala Harris on the lap. So this is her grown. So like, she wouldn't get younger. This can't be the same person. I don't think so.
Beryl, who died at 39. Now, that woman on the right is
Well,
not
what do we know these days, right? What do we know, bro?
39 years old. She's clearly much more advanced in her age. I mean, we know black don't crack. I mean, that's just a scientific fact. So I would put that woman on the right-hand side.
Hey, shout out to Candace.
Don't crack. I mean, that's just, she's clearly much more advanced in her age. I mean, we know black don't crack.
Black
I mean,
don't
that's
crack.
just a scientific fact. So I would put that woman
Yeah,
on the
dropping
right-hand
bars.
side, who she tried to pass off as Beryl, and I think is the exact same person. I would say that woman looks to be about 65. And then it looks like she's more advanced on the left-hand side. The great-grandmother, that's the same person. When I just believe my own eyes, we're looking at the same person.
Oh, okay. Maybe she's looking at it in reverse. I was looking at it like this. Like, this is supposed to be the first picture and second. Maybe she's saying this is just the same person. They added some color on top of it, or made it gray or something like that. Damn, that could be though. Now that I'm actually looking at the eyes and the cheeks. If this is her older, well, it had to be her older. But like the cheeks though, what else would those cheeks do? She got some nice cheeks on her. like as far as like the puffiness of them. You know, they say the more the more elasticity, the more elastic your face is, right? The less wrinkles you have in your life. So those cheeks she got right there, she's in good shape. So check her out right here, like maybe 20 years later. No wrinkles, but she still got that thing right there. So you still can tell that crevice, like a little booty cheek.
Then, what do you guys think when you look at those photos? How the hell does a person who is the vice president of the United States pass off a book, claim that these people that are in her book are her black relatives, and nobody bats an eyelash or does even a peripheral search to recognize that the woman that she put forth is implausibly her grandmother? And by the way, I'm going to say this and people can be offended.
Implausibly her grandmother. Does that mean like they can't?
But the first thing that I thought when I saw the photo of her sitting on her great grandmother's lap was that this doesn't look like a grandparent affection going on here. Like, this woman looks like she could be working for the family.
Ooh.
Quite literally, I thought to myself, this woman looks like she could be the help. And I thought that because there's a lack of affection there. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no, like, in both of the photos, there's a lack of affection. It's just like a woman.
Hold up, y'all. So like I graduated school and like I was like on honor roll, but then like sometimes I missed honor roll. So I wasn't the smartest kid. And if I made honor roll, was B honor roll. I made A honor roll one time. So my point is, when I hear a word I don't know, I Google it. So here we go. Implausible for all of my kids out there that made honor roll, but then like didn't make it, whatever. Implausible means of an argument or statement not seen, reasonable or probable, failing to convince. This is blatantly implausible claim. I'm really good at using my context clues, so I really thought that's what it meant. Like, this just can't. Dubious, far-fetched, flimsily, impossible, improbable, inconceivable, incredible, unbelievable, unconvincing, unreasonable. So we should have known, is what Candace is saying. Somebody should have checked this out, that this chick couldn't even be her grandmother because she was already dead. Ashley is crazy. All right, let's get back into it. Slow it down for all my kids.
This woman looks like she could be working for the family. Quite literally, I thought to myself, this woman looks like she could be the help. And I thought that because there's a lack of affection there. Do you know what I mean? But there's no, like, in both of the photos, there's a lack of affection. It's just
no,
like,
real quick though, like, you know, I don't know, maybe judge me all you want, but anytime you hear a word that you don't know, it's better to just Google it and get the exact definition of it. Because that way, when you hear it again, and that way, when you use it in your own vocabulary, you know exactly how to use it versus relying on the context clues. Because maybe the person that's using it, you know what I'm saying, don't know. I'm not saying that Candace Owens don't know. Of course, you know what I'm saying, I feel like she knows she knows what she's talking about. But I'm just saying in general, if you hear where you don't know, look it up.
a woman standing next to her. And I obviously know that that was a circumstance. When you're talking about a family that had a ton of plantations, which is the reality. She descends from Irish slavers. That is a fact that Kamala Harris cannot deny. She descends from wealthy Irish slavers who virtually they did own the town. They named the town. It was Hamilton Town, then it was Brownstown in Jamaica. He had over 1,000 slaves, okay? It would follow that there would be help around the house. And I'm just going to put here as a question mark.
Wait a minute. So Kamala family, I didn't know this part about it. Her family supposedly came from Ireland, went to Jamaica, and then owned a lot of, you know, the town and owned a lot of slaves in Jamaica. So they were colonizers. Like, so she a colonizer. I mean, so she comes from a lineage of colonize, like the most legit form of colonizing. Like, that's the real form of colonizing. That's crazy. That's wild.
Not as a fact. If they're looking at some of these photos of people who became like family and they're trying to pass them off like relatives, again, not a fact, a huge question mark. But my instinct tells me that that person is actually not her family member. And if it is, well, Kamala's got some explaining to do. How did she meet Grandma Beryl almost 20 years after Grandma Beryl died? Because Kamala Harris looks to be about 20 in that photo that she presented. Then there's another bit of a mystery, as I said. If Beryl married after her or before her wedding when she was 25 years old to the missing Newland, if anybody can find Newland, please let me know. But if Beryl married at some point Oscar Wilde Joseph Brown, where is their marriage certificate? And where is their divorce certificate? Again, I'm only prodding the narrative here because I'm going to need proof that she's black. The media has now made this a thing, and now you made it so much of a thing that you're attacking people like Janet Jackson when she asks a very reasonable question that you should be able to respond to. And now we have a verifiable lie that Kamala Harris told in her book, or a big uh-oh, because, you know, if I'm being nice, I guess sometimes you think when you're publishing a book that it's a photo of you and your grandmother that you never met or never could have met. Maybe Kamala was just confused and thought it was her grandma, but it was a grandmother that she had, again, never met. Media should be on this, and they should be asking her this question. How did you make this significant of a blunder in your book? And isn't it quite ironic that every photo that you have presented, two of which look like they're the exact same person, one aged on, which begs the question, is that even Kamala Harris in her lap? I don't know. Again, we're at the beginning of this investigation. But it's interesting that amongst all of the relatives, so many Irish white slavers, the only photos that she chose to put in this book are the ones that make it look as though she might be black. And we have just significantly and without question debunked one of those photos. Also, there's something else that I notice about Beryl and Oscar, this alleged married couple, right? Our alleged husband and wife. Each of them are listed as having a lot of siblings. Oscar's siblings are named Hildred May Harris, Newton Alexander Harris, and Ina Doreen Harris. I cannot find a single photo of these siblings. Now, why am I looking for it? Well, because people take family photos all the time. Tons of the stuff is on the internet. I mean, one of those people lived until 2005. Ina Doreen Harris allegedly lived until 2005. I would just like to see a photo to confirm that these are black relatives. I just want to confirm their race. Can't find a trace. Similarly for Beryl Finnegan has siblings too. Their names are Abraham Judah Finnegan, Noah Pendergast Finnegan, Bernard Washington Finnegan, and Gloria Eugenie Hill.
I'm just saying, for all my black people tuning in, like, do y'all know any black person with the last name Finnegan? That's definitely an Irish last name. I mean, Irish can still be black though. So, but either way, this is a lot of stuff being told right here. I'm actually confused. I feel like if nonetheless the media should just ask the question, yo, is that really your grandmother in that picture? You don't have to ask if she black, right? That way they can get away. They don't have to feel racist. But you can at least say, is that really your grandmother in that picture? Because maybe she got another black grandmother. I don't know.
Where are they? Or where are any photos of them, presuming that they've passed? Where are the photos of them? They've got to be somewhere, right? Something very suspicious is going on. I don't know how it is plausible, guys. Do not allow the media to gaslight us. It is not difficult, okay, for a person that is running for president of the United States to have a tidy background. This is my mom. This is my dad. This is my grandma. That it always seems to be the case that right before they run, they introduce like one or two photos that they allege are from their childhood. This is my grandma. This is my mom. And if you ask any more questions, I'm going to scream at you and call you a racist, is completely ridiculous. We now have a scandal on our hands, okay? And again, this is the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep looking for these relatives. I'm going to confirm that all of these people are in fact black. I find it strange, just as a little tidbit, that when you go on these genealogy websites, you can see that there's somebody managing the profile. All of the people that are managing the profile for Kamala's relatives are white.
What? All the people managing the profile for black people are white people?
What interest would white people around the United States have in managing the profile for this Jamaica family? Unless...
Well, excuse me, not black people, but Jamaican people. That's...
Well, unless what Janet Jackson said was true, and that these are her white Irish relatives, and she's been hiding that fact by trying to introduce some random photos of a woman and purporting that that woman is her grandmother. Again, if she's been with you throughout your entire life, Kamala, you could drop some more photos, but no matter what, you lied in your book, okay? You lied in your book. That woman died in 1960, and you were born in 1964, and I find that to be extremely problematic. Like I said, I'm in these streets, just like you, Kamala.
Get at me.
If you want to come out and tell the truth, I'm going to be on this. Otherwise, you might as well come up with your storyline, because I don't tend to let go when I have the scent of somebody who's telling a lie. All right, guys, we will pause there. I want to remind you about
Yo, Candace Owens she be out here. I think that's it.
orders. So if you're worried about your money, okay, got
Yeah, that's it. Yo, Candace Owens she be out here, man. So she actually got another one that we about to get into, but real quick, yo. So my biggest thing when it comes to this, like she said, yes, we do need to know if she's black or not. We need to know more than a skin complexion, more than the fact that she's passable as a black person, right? She's color passable. She can be a colored gal, right? More than the fact that she's just colored. That's what some people like to say. She's a colored. So I guess since you're colored, you're black. But as we saw in this comment earlier, I like to read that for you guys again. Like, it's way more than a crayon color. You got to be more than a crayon color. Never associated myself as a crayon color. That's a major difference. So we deserve to know. And I think Candace Owens is about to tell us. Let's get into the next one that she shows us right here. All right. So this one is the new one that she dropped this like a day ago. She dropped like another one today. So let's go ahead and check her out, man. Let's see what she's talking about. Here we go right now. All right.
stop everything because this is officially the.
Oh. All right. Oh, snap. My bad, y'all. One second.
The only podcast that you need to listen to today.
Yo, can y'all hear me?
Yesterday, I received an email from a woman all the way in New Zealand who decided to turn into Sherlock Holmes and fully dedicate herself investigating Kamala Harris.
Not sure what is going on right now. We having some technical difficulties. Give me 1 second, y'all.
Harris and all of these missing documents and all these.
What? Yo, they don't want to see us win. They don't want us to know this information out here, y'all. They're trying to keep us down. It's the powers that be. They're trying to keep us down. Yo, if you on stream, leave a like for the algorithm. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Give me 1 second. We about to get this figured out. All right, y'all. We back. That's my bad. That's my fault. I appreciate y'all sticking with me. Thanks for sticking with me. I know a couple of y'all dipped out like this boy tripping. All right, that was me. I had the mute button on. I had the mute button on at the top of the tab. It'd be different, y'all. All right, let's get it. So this is what I'm saying, man. Like, we about to figure this out. This isn't obviously, YouTube don't want to know about this. They don't want people to talk about this because why would they? This messes up the whole agenda. This is supposed to be the first black female president. This messes up the agenda if it comes out that she's not black. But here's the good part. Kudos to the Democratic Party, honestly, because when it comes to the Democratic Party, what I can say, and we're about to run a little rant here, but what I can say about the Democratic Party, bro, they control mass media. Democratic Party controls mass media. No matter where you slice it or how you slice it, they control the mass media. They control the school system, right? Most teachers are with the teacher union, which is Democrats. So the Democratic Party controls the school system. They control mass media, being on your televisions, being the network owners. They control radio, come to find out. They control a lot. The mass media controls a lot, guys. And when it comes to the Republican side of things, it seems like the Republicans, they're more focused on making money and like generating money, cutting taxes and all those kind of things, which is great, but they're not too focused on the implementing ideology. You feel me? Like really implement ideology, taking time to carry out their agenda in non-monetary ways, just from the standpoint of gaining the youth mentality. I feel like the Democratic Party does the best job at that, and that's why they've always been in control for the most part. When I say always in control, I mean specifically with the black community, because you're controlling the popular culture. You're controlling the entertainment culture. These things is what sways people's opinion. A lot of people vote just based off what somebody else that they like is voting, or they buy based off what somebody else is buying. It's the same thing. They're adapting to their ideology. So the Democratic Party does a great job at that. The Republican Party needs to do a lot better at that. Like, they don't invest into people ideology. They invest into making money, you know what I'm saying, but not the ideology aspect of it. They invest in cutting taxes, but it's like, invest into ideology, invest into free market thinking, invest into capitalistic thinking, make it cool again, right? Because the Democratic Party doesn't make a great job at making it feel like everybody should be equal, and everybody shouldn't be equal, right? Like, there's no reason why everybody should be equal. If you make everybody equal, then it de-incentivizes people to push forward and do more out of life, right? What's the point of going hard and going more if you know that at the end of the day, somebody that does nothing and just sit on the couch all day will get the same outcome as you? Then that ruins our economy. That ruins our just our world. When I say our world, I mean our nation. It ruins our nation. It ruins it because it prevents what makes America great. And what makes America great is also us being able to be free market thinkers, right? We want to do something better to somebody else so we can make more money than them. But nowadays, it's becoming just, how do we make more money? Forget doing it better. But we got to focus on doing it better as well, you know. All right. Enough of me talking, yo. Let's get into Candace Owens. This is the second one. So let's see what she's talking about, bro. Is Kamala Harris black? This is really, we need to know. We need to know. Let's get into it.
The $1,000 bounty because she's earned it. I mean, that we can to turn into Sherlock Holmes and fully dedicate. All right, guys, you can stop everything because this is officially the only podcast that you need to listen to today. Yesterday, I received an email from a woman all the way in New Zealand who decided to turn into Sherlock Holmes and fully dedicate herself to investigating Kamala Harris and all of these missing documents and all of these questions. And what she uncovered is potentially so shocking and so alarming that we can officially close the $1,000 bounty because she's earned it. I mean, she's going to receive the full 1K. Because this is now getting dark and twisted, and my suspicions about Kamala Harris potentially pretending that the help was her family maybe have been confirmed. I'm going to let you guys judge. Don't want to get way ahead of myself, but do not go away, and welcome back to Candace.
Shout out to Candace, bro. I got to get an intro video, right?
I don't even know where we begin here. I mean, I'm just shaken. So look, if you're just jumping into this, you got to stop and you got to go back 2 episodes and play catch up, episode 70 and episode 71, because we're not going to do too much.
So we didn't watch episode 70, but we did just watch episode 71. That's the last one we just watched. All right. So episode 70 just introduced the ideas. Episode 71 went a little bit deeper. Apparently she's about to go deeper here. And then there's another one we're going to get into after that. And then we go wrap it up and get our, you know what I'm saying, night started.
Recapping here because I want to jump right into this. Basically, someone came for Janet Jackson and I answered the door. It was a discrepancy that was in Kamala's book, a woman that she said was her grandmother named Beryl, a picture of her and her grandmother Beryl. Here it is, visiting my paternal grandmother Beryl in Jamaica. And then I did just a brief search online and found out that Beryl allegedly died 4 years before Kamala was born. So that's a major red flag. Then I had a little bit of a gut instinct. The photos that were being presented of Kamala and her grandparents, great-grandmother and Beryl, I just felt that the women, or the woman, because I think they look remarkably alike, I just feel that maybe this woman was the help. And I'm not saying that because she's black. I'm not racist against black people. I am black. I'm saying this because there's just a...
Ain't that crazy? You got to say that. You got to get that. I'm not racist against black people. I am black. Like, you be having to say that when you don't agree with like what's the popular group think when it comes to black culture. All right.
Lack of emotion there. Like, I don't know if it's just my grandparents, but when they're with you, they're like super cuddly and cute. And this woman's just kind of very serious each time that she's being...
That is true. What grandparent do you know that's just like this in a picture? Like, maybe if they don't like taking pictures, I guess, but like not usually. A grandparent is like, you know, they're like the most cuddly things, especially if it's your grandmother versus like, you know, maybe your grandfather. Actually, for 1,000%, a granddad back in the old days, he probably just stern looking, just. But a grandma, I don't think she looked like that. I don't know.
being featured here. So anyways, what happened was we sourced Beryl's birth certificate, and then my instinct got a little bit stronger because her name was spelled differently in the birth certificate, right? So you see that it says Beryl spelled Beril, Magdalene. And we know for a fact, by the way, so people that are submitting other birth certificates, this is definitively the correct birth certificate because it says Iris Finnegan. And we know based on Kamala and Kamala's father, Donald J. Harris, that Iris Finnegan is the mother of Beryl. And then we see that her name changes, the spelling of her name changes, rather, by the time that we looked at her marriage certificate. Suddenly, you can see that the marriage certificate has her name being spelled with a Y. Now, that to me signaled that maybe she definitely is the help, and I'll tell you why. So my grandfather, before he passed away, maybe like 10 years before he passed away, I got kind of obsessed with trying to find all of these documents pertaining to his life because I realized like that's my ancestry. And I was having a ton of trouble mining his grandmother's information because on each document, her name was spelled differently as well as other people in the family. And I was like,
I want to find out information about my life, y'all. I've been really figuring out. If you've been rocking with me, you've been figuring. I want to do the 23andMe or like lineage, figure out my life. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Dad, why is everyone's name spelled differently depending on the document? Like, this is very confusing. Why is it sometimes spelled Liza versus Eliza versus like Lizbeth? That was his grandmother's name. And he explained to me that they didn't know how to read and write. So you forget this. You forget that you had a world, the majority of people couldn't read and write, especially if you were not considered like a high class person. My grandfather grew up on a sharecropping farm. And so what that meant was even if you had a name, if you couldn't read and write, you were going up to the register, whether it was for birth, whatever it was, and you were just telling somebody the name.
We've come so far. Think about not being able to read and write. That's insane.
Weren't saying like, hi, it's Candace, Candace. You're just saying Candace, and one person might spell it Candis, somebody might spell it Candice. If you do not know how to read and write, you don't recognize these discrepancies. So that actually, I thought was a good thing in terms of like my idea that this woman could have potentially just been the help, maybe like on my scent. But I didn't want to be too convinced. Obviously, you know, I lean into the conspiracy mindset because we've been lied to so many times.
Y'all not getting what she's saying. She's saying that if that in fact was the help in the picture, she was like a slave or whatever. So she wasn't a higher class citizen. So she didn't know how to read or write. So she may have spelled her name wrong, or maybe she was telling somebody her name and then they spelled her name wrong, and she looking at it wouldn't be able to distinguish the difference. Whereas if you're a more higher class citizen, which back in those times, meaning if you were white, especially back in those times, right? Then you would be able to distinguish the difference. Think about it like however your name, like my name, you know, D'Angelo. Some people be having just an apostrophe. Some people put how it's supposed to be spelled. So, you know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with you. It's the same thing with her, except she couldn't distinguish the difference, right? She couldn't look at it and be like, you spelled my name wrong. But let's see. I don't know. She about to break it down. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. No. Let's see.
But like I said, we did find that marriage certificate between Beryl and Lawford Newland, which was in July of 1944. And I want to be clear, guys, we know for a fact this is the correct Beryl. So we're not confused here and looking for more documentation when it comes to the birth or the marriage because the correct parents are listed. You can see Patrick Finnegan is listed. And so we know that Beryl's parents are Iris Finnegan and Patrick Finnegan. So that is the correct parent, the correct marriage certificate. But we had no idea who Lawford Newland was. We had no idea that Beryl had allegedly been married after she birthed Donald Harris. That would be Kamala Harris's father. Thought that was like quite strange. He would have been 6 years old in 1944. Donald Harris was born in 1938. So this means that she got married to this guy, Lawford Newland, and she had a 6-year-old. So I thought that was quite strange. I couldn't find anything on Lawford Newland, but somebody on the team was able to determine that he arrived on a ship to New Orleans. He arrived in New Orleans, from Jamaica.
That is insane. You can find out where people arrive. I think I seen that on what's that one Will Smith movie, y'all? Hitch. That one Will. This is my first time ever seeing something like that on Hitch, but I didn't see it. But like, this is my first time actually seeing it. So like, you get what I mean? Like, I didn't know. I knew it was a thing when I watched the movie Hitch, but this is my first time. So I wonder where my grandparents came in at. I don't know.
In May of 1943. So we're showing you here the ship manifest, and Crazy. Lawford Newland is on the ship, and he is listed as, he's listed as a Negro. He's Black. It says his marital status is single. That would be correct because this would have been a trip the year before.
So I was just talking about how they used to separate us, or how we should be separated. I guess it's just Negro. That was our ethnicity. That was our race, Negro. In parentheses, the color black. That's crazy, right? That's really crazy, bro. That's crazy. But check this out. He was Jamaican. So this is how it happened. Actually, look, this is how it happened. He was Jamaican. They don't put his race as Jamaican black or like Jamaican black or Jamaican something. They just put him as black. We seeing how it happened, y'all. This is how it all happened. That's crazy.
He got married to Beryl. So quite strangely, he went to New Orleans, and then I guess he at some point had to have gone back just a year later to get married. We still have not been able to locate the relevant marriage certificate between Oscar Harris. Now that's, again, Kamala's dad. His father is Oscar Harris. We cannot find that marriage between Kamala's grandfather and Beryl. So that's like a huge question mark there, right? Like, where is that marriage certificate? If you guys find it, we're checking our emails, and we're obviously aware that there are a lot of different Beryls that are being born in Jamaica at different times. Some people are like, this could be the case of two Beryls, and they're sending us different birth certificates. Like I said, we know we have the correct birth certificate. We know we have the correct marriage certificate. We know for a fact that this Beryl did get married, and that Donald should have been 6 years old when she got married. So it begs the question, was this her second marriage? Did she have a child out of wedlock with Oscar Harris? Did she have Donald? And then did she get married? Because it lists her on her marriage certificate as a spinster, which means that she's not married, obviously. And then she gets married to Lawford Newland. And then at some point they would have had to divorce if she remarried and got married to Oscar. So she would have had to have gotten with him, had a child with him, married somebody else, divorced that somebody else, and then gotten back together with Oscar and gotten married. That's like a lot of movement. Again, we don't have any documentation, so we're not going to speculate. But Beryl in general, I'm not describing her as the dog that's not barking, okay? So some people were saying, well, I've seen on different websites that there was also a Beryl Harris that died in 1995, and maybe this could potentially be her. We've done the math on that. No, that woman would have been born in 1914. Like I said, we know for a fact Beryl was born. The birth certificates are probably the most relevant source, because you obviously wouldn't have a birth certificate written years later after the fact that your child was born. It says that Beryl was born in 1917. But I started going back to that piece that Donald Harris wrote. Remember, the first time that we were kind of introduced to the fact that Kamala Harris was black, it was because Donald Harris wrote this piece, which came right behind Kamala Harris's book, Reflections of a Jamaican Father. And I just would like to, by the way, really stress to you how black he was trying to suddenly make them. Like, I'm just going to read you the first sentence of this by Donald J. Harris, Kamala's father. As a child growing up in Jamaica, I often heard it said by my parents and family friends, "'Member where you come from."
Bro, they really write it like, "Remember when you..." Did they really do that? All right, wait, let's. That I can't. Let's.
And then he goes on and he writes, "My one big regret is that Kamala and her sister did not come to know very well the two most influential women in my life, Miss Crishy and Miss Iris." Okay, so those are his grandparents, according to him. Those are both of his grandmothers, maternal and paternal. And then the whole piece is about his grandmother, his two grandmothers. And he wrote, "Both of my grandmothers had the strongest influence on my early upbringing." And then in parentheses, he writes, "Not to exclude, of course, the influence of my dear mother, Miss Beryl, and loving father, Mass Oscar." Like, I think it's supposed to be like Massa, like Mass Oscar. Very strange. Again, nobody that I know calls their mom Miss Beryl, calls their grandmother Miss Iris, and calls their other grandmother Miss Iris. There's something about that doesn't strike me as familial. But again, that's speculation. Doesn't matter. Maybe there is this strange family where everyone, like, they address their mom as Miss, and they address their grandmother as Miss, and they address their other grandmother as Miss. Like that, it really isn't up to us to make any conclusions. But that's the first and last time that he mentioned his mother, Miss Beryl. Okay, which signals to me that my theory about her having died young, you're saying you're raised by your grandparents, but your mother is around, but you don't talk about your mother or speak about your mother at all in this entire piece. signals to me that this is correct and your mother died early, okay? You're not mentioning her for a reason. So then this gets crazy. I get an email. Actually, I got 2 emails, but this one in particular made me sit up straight in bed. Like, I'm not kidding. I was like about to fall asleep, and I just decided to check the email box, and I like sat up. I sat up just like this and started texting everyone. And I woke my husband up. I was like, you have to read this email. This is completely crazy. It came all the way from New Zealand. Shout out to New Zealand. I'll be on tour there soon, you guys. Get out there, buy some tickets, because we're going to talk about this now. That's the only thing I'm going to speak about in New Zealand. But I'm going to just read this this email to you because it's just incredible. Kia ora from New Zealand, Candace. My name is blank. And after your first podcast about the family of Kamala Harris yesterday, I went down the rabbit hole all day looking for photos of Beryl Finnegan Harris's brothers and sisters, as you asked. I was so intrigued and I wanted to take up your challenge. I could not find those photos, but I did come across a record that you might be interested in. I noticed on Kamala's birth certificate, you showed that her father, Donald Harris, was 26 at her birth in 1964, giving him a presumable birth year of 1938. That is correct. He was born in 1938. I'm just saying that as an aside. I came across the attached record of a 1-year-old child who died in 1940 in St. Anne's Parish. This infant's name was Donald Harris. You will notice the baby's father's name that is given was Albert Harris, and there's no mother mentioned. However, you will be interested to notice that a person listed as present at the death of the child was none other than Beryl Harris.
Whoa.
She has also signed the death record.
Whoa.
What are the chances that Beryl had her own baby named Donald in 1938, and then was also in attendance of the passing of a baby named Donald Harris in 1940? Weird, right? And just to be clear, that we're going to show you that certificate because it would mean that there were 2 Donald Harris babies born that Beryl was around. One was hers and one, I don't know, guys. It's getting weird. I'm going to finish this email, then we're going to talk about it. I have looked for the infant's father, Albert Harris, and cannot find a lot about him. Albert's father name was Abraham Harris. I believe it is possible he was married to a Violet Fearon on the 6th of March, 1935. No record of her passing, so why was she not at her child's death? But Beryl Harris was. Was this baby Beryl's or Violet's? If Donald Harris passed 1 year old, who is the man claiming to be Kamala's father? Oh my gosh, chill. She wrote, make it make sense. I'll keep digging. Chills. I was like, what are you talking about? I've opened this email so fast. It was crazy. And let me just show you the attachment. Chills. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out all over again. It's hitting me. It's a second wave here of
I actually did get chills. It's like crazy to think about, bro. Like, let's keep watching though.
what? So yes, you will see that listed here. This is a death certificate that is on the 29th of November, 1940.
Yo, can we take time out to appreciate how good their cursive is? This is like the best one. I always appreciate people who can write cursive good. I'm a fan of cursive personally. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, in St. Anne Parish, that obviously is where her family is from. And yes, the child's name was Donald Harris. The child died before the child turned 2. So this would mean that it is plausible that this child was born in 1938, the exact same year that Donald J. Harris, Kamala's father, was born. Okay. Can you pull it back up? I'm not done reading through this. Okay, so you have also, it says the certified cause of death is fever and a cold. And it's letting you know, it says the duration of the illness, so that this baby was sick for 1 month, rest in peace. And it does mention that that baby is the son of Albert Harris. And just as this person speculates, it is signed by Beryl Harris, and it tells you, because you're supposed to include this, the signature of the person who was present at the death. And it says Beryl Harris, present at the death. And that is at Mount Moriah in St. Anne. Now, I want to be clear, there is no place to put the mother's name. So it's not like there's anything like strange here. I just think that if this is this Beryl's child and this Beryl Harris was married to this Albert Harris or together with this Albert Harris at some time, like that is the reason why it just says that present for the death. Like literally, who else would be present? If your child is dying less than 2 years old, okay, barely 2 years old, who would you allow to be there in your place? There's no mother on earth that wouldn't be next to their child. So it is very heavily suggested that Beryl Harris was there for the presence of her son, Donald Harris, dying, and that would put that approximate birth of that baby at 1938.
So they're saying that Kamala, because I know they said a lot right there. I didn't pause it because I'm trying to catch up myself. But look at her face right there. I feel like that. Like, what are you saying? So they're saying like the Donald Harris dude is supposedly not even Kamala dad, the one that wrote the letter, the one that saying that's Jamaican and all that type of stuff. Like he's supposedly not even her dad. Like he's supposedly he's already dead. But let's keep watching. I can't even. I'm just trying to summarize to what I understand so far. But let's keep watching. It's crazy.
Stop the press. Stop the press. Okay. So you can imagine me. Now you're me sitting up straight. Like, what is going on here? Like, actually, what do I know about Kamala's father?
Right.
Like, this could be a coincidence, I'm sure. Yeah, I guess you could have like a lot of barrels that are giving birth to Donalds in the year 1938 in St. Anne Parish. Of course, like you have to consider every possibility here, but also consider that this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Okay, so then I received a second email. Okay, very interesting here. Very interesting here. And I'm just going to read the email. I'm just going to read the email and take you through this. What happens when I go through my info box and I tell you guys to message with deets. This email says, "Hi, Candace. See the death certificate below indicating that Beryl Christie was a domestic servant in 1936 when her infant daughter died." So there's another, and this person has written Beryl Christie and lost her daughter.
Is Beryl a common name in in Jamaica or Ireland or like that type? Is that the name out there? Beryl? I don't know. Help me out. Is that Beryl?
And I'm going to pull it up here at the bottom of this email. She talks about like the birth dates. I'll get to that later. Do you guys have a close up of this? Yeah. Okay. So you can see here, it is Beryl Christie. And this would mean not only did Beryl Christie lose a child in 1940, but prior to that, Beryl Christie lost a daughter in 1936. Okay.
Sad.
Again, all we have here is Beryl Christie. We know that this is potentially the right Beryl. Again, there could be another Beryl Christie going around. I don't want to completely close the door on.
Here's the thing. We out here watching this, right? And I told you about the traditional news networks. You don't get this kind of information. But check this out. I am aware that when you like somebody, you give them a little bit more benefit of the doubt, and you're willing to hear them all the way out. So like with Candace Owens, you know what I'm saying? I mess with Candace Owens. I like her. Y'all tuning in to me. Maybe I like me. Maybe I like tuning in to me. So you're able to tune into what I'm tuning into, and I'm tuning into her because I'm tuning into her. That being said, if there was like a whole separate thing, like would I be tuned into this if like somebody else said it or somebody else was presenting it, is what I'm saying? Because this could be like completely crazy because it sound crazy. Like who will lie about this? That's about to be our president. But then it makes you think about the world that we really live in, bro. Like, let's keep watching
that, but it is interesting. And I'll tell you why this struck me as incredibly interesting, because when we spoke about the death certificate yesterday, right, and we spoke about this young death of a woman, she's particularly died, Beryl Christie, of fibroids related to a hysterectomy. So if there is a Beryl Christie that had back-to-back, had lost children in some regard, you could imagine that she might have been injured internally. This is a long time ago. You would imagine that the procedures, obviously, are not what they are today. And it is plausible that that woman died young of fibroids from a hysterectomy related to the fact that she had two troubling births, whatever it is, carrying children didn't work out for her. I just thought like, okay, but the big part about that second one is that we now know for a fact that there was a Beryl Christie that was, in fact, a domestic servant. Can you pull that back up again? Because I want to point that out so people can see this. The last one, the close up of it, if we can. You can see that she is listed as a domestic servant. That girl is listed as the daughter of Beryl Christie. You can see that in that where it says rank, profession, or occupation, daughter of Beryl Christie, domestic servant. I don't know, guys. Like I said, I'm trying to now, I'm putting in columns to sort through the various Beryl Christies that were born around this time. Like I said, you guys keep sending me stuff, but just to make sure you're filtering yourself, we know for a fact that Beryl Christie was born in 1917. We know for a fact that Beryl Christie got married in 1944. to Lawland Newford, or whatever his name is, Lawford Newland, pardon. And so we don't need a bunch of documents speculating that it could be a different birth, because her parents are listed, and Kamala and her father have confirmed that her parents are Iris and Patrick Finnegan. Okay. So we know those are the people that we are looking for. Oddly enough, though, because a lot of people have been pointing out the fact that in her birth certificate, even though we know that that's her mom, Iris, that's the mom's name, Iris Finnegan, it says Magdalene. And then suddenly it converts to Christy. Well, I just wanted to point out to you, because that was a question we were getting a lot, is why would she take on Christy? In Donald Harris's piece, he writes explicitly that Miss Iris, so that's Kamala's great grandmother, that her husband was known as Mr. Christie. So I'll read you that paragraph. It says, Miss Iris, mother of 8 children, I can't find 8 children, by the way, was the sweetest and gentlest person one could meet, but underneath it was a tough farming woman who ran the cane farm at Thatch Walk, jointly owned with her husband, Mr. Christie. So the reason she may have put Christie, or started using Christie as a middle name, is because that would mean that her father was being called Mr. Christie. Again, we are getting that directly from Donald J. Harris, who I'm now very interested in. I'm now very interested in this particular Donald J. Harris. Obviously, very easy way to debunk this, and maybe there really was just another Beryl Christie that happened to have a child named Donald in the same year from the same parish, would be to just take a look at Kamala's father's birth certificate. And we can't find that. We quite literally cannot find that, and I find that to be very strange. People were writing to me saying, hey, it looks like this was purposefully removed, that his birth certificate was removed. And I would just like to find it, because it would just kind of let me be at ease and know that there's nothing further to look at other than this child, because it's just a very, very strange thing. Okay, I also wanted to just go over everything we do know about Donald J. Harris, because I was interested in him suddenly. And the first thing is, he, according to him, like Miss Crishy in this piece, is his paternal grandmother. He calls her Miss Crishy. He acknowledges that they were descendants of the slave owner Hamilton Brown.
Yo, real quick, I didn't know that you can just pull up anybody's birth certificate. I thought you had to I think you got to go down to the county actually to pull up their birth certificate. I think so. I don't know. I didn't know. I don't know.
And he is the founder of Brownstown. That's another thing that strikes me as very odd, and maybe there's something I'm missing here. But if you were a person that established a town and you had over 1,000 slaves, would you really just openly be married to some of these slaves? Like, is that something that would happen? I know that obviously they would have relations with the slaves, and that's something that is a reality. But in the way that they speak about their family, it's like they were just openly married with slave owners and slavers, which I find to be a little
She got some of that WAP.
a bit strange. As I said, he claims that Miss Crishy owned and operated a dry goods store, and that she died in 1951 at the age of 70. Then we have Miss Iris, who he mentions, that's the maternal grandmother. We can actually get up this, we can get up the family tree so people can see this. He mentions Miss Iris, and that is the person that he completely fawns over. That's his maternal grandmother, Miss Iris. She was a farmer, an educator, he claims. And he also says, which I find to be quite strange, remember, he says he has the strongest relationship with Miss Iris, doesn't even mention his mother, Beryl. By the way, these photos are the ones that have been provided by Kamala.
So this is supposed to be Kamala Pops. So her mom was Indian, Native American Indian, you know. So this is her pop's lineage.
Herself and her father. I cannot verify that these are accurate photos, but we're just going to use the ones that they're given. But what's quite strange is he says that Miss Iris's ancestry is unknown to him. So I guess they never had that conversation, despite how close they are. Again, she jointly owned the farm with her husband, Mr. Christie, and he died in 1981 at the age of 93. Sorry, pardon. He says that she died at the age of 93 at the age of 1981. That's Miss Iris. Then you have Joseph Alexander Harris. Now that is the person who we are to understand that she was married to. The Harris name comes from his paternal grandfather, Joseph Alexander Harris. He was the landowner and the agricultural produce export, and he refers to the family property as Orange Hill. I think we need some Jamaicans to go out here and just start verifying stuff for me. And that Uncle Newton took over Orange Hill and started a limestone mining and brick producing operation in addition to cattle, grass fruit, pimiento farming of earlier times. Now, again, I am just trying to understand how she came from a middle class background. I mean, people that had slaves were super wealthy. It sounds like they always owned land.
Well, regarding the slave, like, hold on.
And that they always potentially had servants. So I'm just trying to understand where this middle class background comes from. And my producer put in a note here that people in the live chat are saying that it's a Creole language, it's native to Jamaica when he starts speaking in this tongue.
Creole?
Okay, I literally didn't know that. I'm sorry, but I just found that he was writing in this way, which I found to be quite strange. I felt like
So that's why he was writing away. Okay. So he was speaking Creole type stuff.
he was trying to sell to us they were definitely Jamaican or they were like descended from slaves, and they had slaves. So obviously his family actually had slaves, thousands of slaves there. So I thought that he was trying to lean into the slave language. So I'll correct that if that's actually English Creole. Okay, I'm going to take a break here and just speak about one of the sponsors of the show before I get into some of your comments and we speak more about this. This episode is sponsored by actually never knew that was a language that was named. So first responding to that, yeah, I don't know if he was trying to write English Creole. I actually never knew that. Chris, I don't know if I told.
All right, so she's going through her comments. But that being said, yo, that's just really interesting, man. Like, kind of at a loss of words for real. This is like my first time, like really, this one really in particular kind of threw me off just because that's a really big accusation to say that her father is just not even existent. Like he just doesn't exist. That's crazy. But then even the fact that her father, I guess the idea was that her family tree or whatever, like her great grandfather married a slave. That's like the idea of it. Her great grandfather married a slave. Her great grandfather was a white man, married a slave, and then had her father, which you don't really hear about too many people. You know what I'm saying? Marrying a slave, unless, like I said, she got that wop. I don't know. Even then, though, like that's a pretty big reach. So I think in general, this is too much for me to really say too much on it. I'm mainly just in shock because if that's the real thing, bro, then this only came out yesterday. This video came out yesterday. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see like if this even gets a lot of national coverage. I feel like it should. I feel like at the very least we should be questioning like who was the woman in that photo if your real grandmother had already died and there's already evidence of that. But this is the last one that we got. This came out just an hour ago. She says she thinks she found Kamala's real family. So we're here for it. I appreciate y'all sticking with me. I know we've been on for like an hour, a little over an hour. Hit a like for the algorithm. Let's go ahead and get into this last video here. She supposedly found the real film. I really like this starting soon bank.
Well, where should we begin? You guys have heard of whitewashing history, but have you heard of blackwashing? Blackwashing is when you're a politician and it's election season and suddenly you have to relate to black people. So you just sort of start making stuff up to blackify yourself, your history. You start dropping a bunch of slang and colloquialisms and
like that sweater she got on,
hoping that the people will therefore understand you. Honestly, it's become something of a democratic rite of passage. Except this time, I think we may have caught the culprit red-handed. Of course, I'm speaking about Kamala Harris. I think her and her campaign team are really going to regret the day that their media henchmen came for Janet Jackson. Welcome back to Candace.
Ooh. No, y'all remember when Candace Owens got after the BLM, Black Lives Matter people? That was my first time ever like questioning like, yo, what are these Black Lives Matter people actually doing because of her? So let's see what's up.
I'm literally buzzing with excitement right now for what we just discovered.
I meant what they doing with the money is what I was saying. That's what she ended up looking at.
Obviously, we are running a little bit late today, but as I said, it will be well worth the wait. So yesterday, we were getting closer and closer, asking questions, obviously, about Kamala's genealogy. If you need to go back, you can do that. Begin with episode 70 and work your way forward to see how this mystery has unfolded. So we were left with some major holes in Kamala's genealogy. We had from her father, Donald J. Harris, that he grew up in Jamaica and was raised by his grandmother, Miss Iris. He effectively wrote an entire piece about his Jamaican heritage and really focused on his grandmother, like she is the person that made the most difference for him. He honorably mentioned Miss Iris's husband, who he only referred to as Mr. Christie, and remained conspicuously silent about his own mother. How do you do that? How do you just say one sentence about your mother, refer to her as Miss Beryl? And I want to be clear, you're writing this for the population, right? You're talking about your heritage. Even if you called your mother Miss Beryl, you would probably, for the sake of wanting people to be clear.
Yo, can you imagine calling your mom Miss whatever her name is in front of the whole world? Like, I'll be joking with my mom sometimes, calling her first name or last name. But if I just called her Miss in front of everybody, like, yeah, this is Miss, I'd be like, this is my mom, Mrs. But I would verse distinguish, this is my mom, Miss whoever, but this is my mom. So he didn't say this is my mom, Mrs. Beryl. He said this is Miss Beryl. Like, who's Miss Beryl? Just a random person? Oh, this is my mom, Miss. So that is weird that he didn't do that. This was for everybody. This is like your introduction to the world. You're introducing your family. You're gonna just introduce your mom as Miss, and that you wouldn't. That's crazy.
Clear on who you're referring to, list her full name. He didn't do that. He just said one sentence. This is not to, ignore my mother, Miss Beryl. And that was it. And we know that her full name, according to her birth certificate, is Beryl Magdalene Finnegan. And we know that at various times she took on the middle name Christie. He also mentioned in that piece that his father was Mass Oscar. I guess, again, that is kind of a slang way of referring to his father. But I was completely stumped. I was completely stumped as I was looking further into this because I could not find a marriage record between his father, Oscar Joseph Harris, Miss Oscar, and his mother, Beryl Finnegan. Like, this is something that to me seemed really odd. And some people who wanted to rationalize it were saying, oh, no, that's just how things were. And sometimes people didn't have record. No, I wasn't buying any of that because we were dealing with a family that had money. It is just a fact that Kamala Harris's family descends from slavers. They were given money for their slaves. Somebody did the calculation essentially for that day and time. It would have been $11 million that they inherited for their slaves once it was abolished. It is why when he speaks about his Jamaican heritage, he speaks about them as having owned stores, right? So this is not your typical Black story that we're referring to here.
And this is the woman that your common kid growing up in the ghetto, your one parent household, inner city kid is supposed to relate to this woman whom family owned slaves. They didn't just like they owned slaves, sold slaves, and then I guess migrated to America and they were pretty well off. That's pretty crazy.
So I expected very much for there to be a record of marriage. Oddly, as you guys will recall, any records that I did find suggested to me that Beryl may have been the domestic help, who may have also given birth to a son named Donald, born in 1938, who died before he even turned 2. So that was very strange. Question marks. We were like, okay, we're seeing this Beryl, we're seeing this Donald Harris, we're seeing that an infant died. What's really going on here? Why is it starting to feel like a scary movie? But of course, we want to rationalize it ourselves. Like, maybe it is just a coincidence that another Beryl had another Donald in 1938 in St. Aaron Parish, and we shouldn't look too far into that. What we knew for certain was that Beryl, the correct Beryl, was married at the age of 25. So Donald Harris, who was presenting as Kamala's father, would have been 6 years old. She got married to a man named Lawford Newland, who he has completely erased from his childhood historical account. When he wrote this piece, he did not mention a Lawford Newland, a stepdaddy named Lawford Newland. And that was odd because then it would suggest that she would have had to have married his father, Oscar Joseph Harris, after that. So have the kid, marry someone else, and then go back and marry your baby daddy. I don't
It could have been a split parent household. Yeah, see, that's why y'all come to me, bro. I was just trying to get y'all both sides. It could have been a split parent household. He didn't have a great relationship with the stepfather, so he never mentioned him. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, and I'm trying to get y'all split perspective. But I know we got a lot of people tuned in on Rumble. Give us a like for the algorithm.
know, but I needed to find some records. We also couldn't find a divorce record, by the way, between Lawford Newland and Beryl Finnegan. Where's the divorce record? We did see that he went to America. We searched there. He went to New Orleans. He went to California. We just could not find anything. And in my view, there were too many holes in his account numbers that he got wrong about the siblings. I just felt that there was a secret here. So I decided that we needed more information specifically about Donald J. Harris himself. And we couldn't find a birth certificate for him, which I flagged as odd. And I also wanted, which I,
Does he look like Kamala?
J. Harris himself.
Does he look like Kamala Harris, y'all? They definitely the same skin complexion, maybe the same eyes.
And we couldn't find a birth certificate for him, which I flagged as odd. And I also wanted to find that marriage certificate between his father, Oscar J. Harris, and his mother, Beryl Finnegan. That was crucial to me. So here's what we stumbled upon. More information about Donald J. Harris appeared to us. This is going to get crazy, you guys. I'll tell you how we put this together. Through old Jamaican newspaper clippings that have been digitized. So first and foremost, this one fact checks, but it was a little bit of tidbit of an information that I thought was interesting. It was a wedding announcement that was published in the Kingston Gleaner. That's the name of the newspaper. It was published, as you can see here, November 1st, 1963, which just announces the wedding of presumably Kamala's mother, as we're told, Shyamala Gopalin, to Donald J. Harris. It reads, he is the son of Oscar J. Harris of Spanish Town and Mrs. Beryl Finnegan. Okay.
Yo, this looked like them. That looked like them. What they showed, I don't know if y'all watching earlier, but she showed the picture of her mom and dad. This looked like, bro, you know what I'm saying? The hair, of course, he's older. Life. Mom's, she looks like a Native American. She got that's the look of a Native American. All right.
It writes before leaving, it says before leaving Jamaica in 19, and can you pull that up? Because I couldn't read it for clarity. But it says before leaving Jamaica in, it looks like maybe 19, I don't want to guess it. Mr. Harris worked for the Jamaican Information Service. Okay, what is the Jamaican Information Service? That's what I asked myself. What is that? I'll tell you what it is. The Jamaican Information Service is an executive agency of the government of Jamaica that is responsible for disseminating information. It used to be known as the Government Public Relations Office. It says that to achieve its objectives, the agency utilizes a broad range of media skill sets: print, radio, television, graphic arts, video projection, and public relations. It was established in 1956. Okay, so now we know that before he left Jamaica, he worked for the government. So he's got some connections in government. And he's not the only one, because that newspaper article goes on to inform us that his bride, who we're told is Kamala's mother, is the daughter of Mr. P.V. Gopalin, the Deputy Secretary of the Government of India. So she is also...
Oh, no. So she's flat out Indian, not Native American. My bad, y'all. So she's Indian. She does look Indian, huh? That's what that tarp thing is. Not tarp, you know what I'm saying? That thing. Yeah.
Secretary of the Government of India. So she is also connected to the government of India, and her dad is the Deputy Secretary of the Government of India. That's just a thing that I think is important to know, that these two people worked for the government and they came together and they got married. Now, we still could not find a marriage record between these two, but it may be plausible that they got married somewhere else, but at least we see the announcement. So I thought, now let's focus on his father, right? I'm looking for something to attach Oscar to Beryl, presumably, if this is a family that is important enough to have wedding announcements in the newspaper. Maybe we will be able to stumble upon something between Oscar and Beryl. Now, I want to remind you that Kamala brought up Oscar J. Harris, her grandfather, in her book, and she reveals a picture of him on page 282. So I'm going to show you that right now. It reads, "When I was 10 months old, I visited Spanish Town, Jamaica. This is me with my mother and my paternal grandfather, Oscar Joseph." So we know his name is Oscar.
I thought, so this is her mother and, okay, her grandfather. Okay.
Joseph Harris. And we know.
I like that look. I like that pose in her mom's face. It's like one of those, like, That's kind of swagged out. Like to modern day, I feel like she'd be swagged out, low key, low key.
That's what he looks like, thanks to Kamala Harris's book. Great, love that. So I looked him up, and at first the father came up for a bankruptcy hearing announcement. This is dated, by the way, March 11th, 1939. So this would have been 1 year after Donald was allegedly born. It just reads, in the matter of bankruptcy petition against Reginald Victor Harris, Oscar Joseph Harris, and Newton Alexander Harris of Brownstown in the parish of St. Anne, trading as Harris Bros, take notice that the above named intend to apply for the revocation of the provisional order of bankruptcy made against them in this honorable court on the 6th day of January 1939. Okay, so we know that they were apparently going through some bankruptcy proceedings, and they were fighting those bankruptcy proceedings. They were going to stand against them. But what's relevant there is that we know it's him because it lists his brothers. It lists that they're from Brownstown, and we have fact-checked that genealogy. So this is the correct family. This is the grandfather that Kamala is referring to in her book. Here is where it is going to get crazy. Buckle up. I really hope you guys are sitting for this. He came up again, and fortunately, it was for a wedding. Unfortunately, it was not for a wedding to Beryl. Instead, just like Beryl married somebody else, apparently he married somebody else. Now, this clipping is from June 9th, 1952. Look at this. It says, Oscar Harris weds Vioris Cambridge. Now, I want you to look at this photo, and it certainly looks like, and I know it's a shadow on the left-hand side, but I'm going, that looks like the picture. You can tell by that balding pattern of the person that Kamala has
Yo, don't come on my niggas balding pattern like that.
presented to us as her grandfather. And he looks mixed race to me, but that woman on the right looks white to me. Now, I know you're going, Candace, that's crazy. It's a black and
You can't tell she white.
white photo, but you know, there's a certain way when you're photographing a black woman that she comes across, and that ain't it, my friends. But again, that was a theory. Let's read the article.
Do y'all think she looked white? I don't think you can tell if she looked white or not. Not based off that. With him, you can tell that's bro. The nose, the head, the hair. That's him. You can tell. I can't tell if she's white or not. I can't tell. It's a tough one. Let me know what y'all think.
She comes across, and that ain't it, my friends. But again, that was a theory. Let's read the article. It reads,
maybe she's saying she looked proper, like her mannerisms, but at the same time, you still can't tell. There's I don't know.
Vioris Cambridge, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. V.S. Cambridge of St. Elizabeth, that's another parish in Jamaica, became the bride of...
I don't know. That name Cambridge, though, does sound, I don't know. That kind of sound like a white name. I don't know too many black dudes with a last name Cambridge.
Oscar Harris.
Too many black people in general.
Of Brownstown, St. Anne, at a beautiful ceremony in the St. Andrew Parish Church, Halfway Tree, on Thursday last night. Her slenderness enhanced by a gown of white nylon and chantilly lace. The bride, carrying a bouquet of white asters, was given in marriage by her father. Her only attendant, her sister, Carmen Cambridge, wore a gown of aqua nylon and chantilly lace with a bouquet of pink rosebuds. The best man in the ceremony, performed by the Reverend Grant Levi of Montego Bay, was Mr. Newton Harris, brother of the groom.
First off, let's just be real. If you got a whole entry in a newspaper about your wedding, then you somebody. Like that's what I want to get to this level in life where like I get married or I do some big shit. Like it needs to be a whole entry in a newspaper, a whole thing about it. I don't even know if the newspaper really a thing these days, but still, I still want one just so I can feel it. Yeah, they were somebody is what I'm saying. So she definitely came from a wealthy lineage, especially during this time to have it in a newspaper during this time. It's millions of people getting married or having ceremonies during this time, thousands. But the point is, it wasn't as accessible as far as pencils and paper and printing and computers and all that. So it was worth it to put the effort in, is what I'm saying. There was somebody.
During the signing of the register, Mr. Gene McDonald sang, "I'll walk beside you," and "Because," at a reception held at the home of the bride's uncle on Chester Avenue, Mr. Milton Hamilton was master of ceremonies. I just went, what the heck is this? First and foremost, how odd that Donald J. Harris, as he's recollecting these memories from his childhood, now has left out the part where Beryl married someone when he would have been 6 years old and would have been his stepfather. But he's also now leaving out the fact that his mother similarly married someone when he was a little bit older. I mean, that his father similarly married someone when he was a little bit older, and that woman, at least according to my eyes, appears to me to be fully Caucasian. But I said, that sounds crazy. Let me see if I can find this woman, Vioris Cambridge, by a quick Google search. Like, where? That's quite a different name, Vioris. I've never heard it before. Certainly,
It's a nice name, but I've never heard that name. That's a pretty unique name.
something's going to pop up, and certainly just one thing did, and it was a funeral entry of a white woman who died in Broward County. And what I noticed about this entry was that it was very scant on details. I'm going to show this to you. Okay. Vioris Anita McPherson, it says. And I'm looking at that face on the left there and I'm going, I recognize that face. This woman looks familiar to me. Am I crazy? Are you guys seeing this? She looks a little bit like Kamala Harris. There's something about
Is that a reach, y'all?
the smirk. I don't know. Am I crazy? So I said, let me not.
Not the smirk though. Not the smirk. Maybe the smirk. She always do that smirk. Maybe the smirk. I don't know.
Jump to conclusions. Maybe I am just so down far the rabbit hole that I'm seeing Kamala's face. So I read this entry and it says, it is with great sadness that the family of Vioris Anita Harris McPherson, Cambridge, in parentheses, so we know that that's her maiden name right there, announces her passing on Saturday, June 15th, 2019. She will be lovingly remembered by her children and spouses, her grandchildren and spouses, her great-grandchildren.
2019 was just, wait, what's supposed to say? 2019 was right around the way though. That's crazy. That was just very
cousins, nieces, nephews, and friends.
Oh,
we will celebrate her life on Saturday, June 29th, 2019 at 10 o'clock a.m. at Christ the Rock Community Church. It gives the address there, and it says where they will immediately follow at a reception hall. In lieu of flowers, donations may be made to the Alzheimer's Foundation in memory of Vioris Harris McPherson. So nothing given to us there, literally nothing given to us about our family. Have you ever seen that? Usually survived by a sister.
Ah, you're right. They say the name. Yeah.
A cousin, a brother. I went to see if anybody posted anything. It says she has a really big family. I was like, okay, well, certainly somebody would have posted on the board. You know, people do that all the time. I'm so sorry for your loss. Love you. Cousin, I'll see you there. Hug, kisses, nothing. Very weird. I then tried to look this woman up in Broward County records, and it just looks like people are trying to protect who she was. It doesn't tell me who she's married. I don't see anything there in Broward County. It just has an entry for a marriage that took place in 1994. And I also see that she's got another name there, McPherson. So maybe she got remarried. But it at least tells us that her birthday was October.
Yo, she out here collecting last names. Like she the last name collector, bro. That's crazy.
7th, 1927.
I get married, we get divorced. I want my last name back. Like, you don't just get to keep my last name and then add somebody else's on and then add another. We're like, hell no. It's crazy.
So I thought to myself, can I find a woman, a white woman who was born in Jamaica with that exact birth date, with that exact name? It's, like I said, a very different name, Vioris. And the answer is yes, we did. We were able to locate her birth certificate. And now we know why it said that she was married to V.S. Cambridge. It had listed her father as V.S. Cambridge, Mr. and Mrs. V.S. Cambridge. That's because her father's name is Vivian. Her mother's name is Adina Wright. And here you have it, born in Elizabeth. St. Elizabeth is, here she is. This is this woman, Vioris Cambridge, born to Vivian Cambridge and Adina Wright on October 7th, 1927 in St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. What the hell is going on? Who is this woman? Why hasn't this been mentioned? Why does it feel like this profile was being very hidden? And again, as Donald was jumping in to his family background. And
so wait a minute. She said that Donald Harris married the Vioris, and that Donald Harris is supposed to be Kamala's dad. I'm trying to make sense of this with y'all, right? Kamala Harris is supposed to be her. The Donald Harris is supposed to be Kamala Harris's father. The Vioris is supposed to be Kamala Harris's mother. And then Donald Harris is supposed to be Donald Harris's son. But Kamala Harris is supposed to be Kamala Harris's dad. I'm trying to make sense of this with y'all, right? Kamala Harris is supposed to be her. The Donald Harris is supposed to be Kamala Harris's father. and he's supposed to got married. His second marriage was the Vioris chick, but Vioris is born in Jamaica, and her last name was already Harris when she was born. So that they make that newsletter article up. I don't know. Let's see.
Speaking about how Jamaican it was, why didn't he mention this? Why didn't he mention this woman, his white relatives? It might be relevant when we're having a discussion about Kamala's race to mention the fact that your dad married a white woman.
So this is his dad. This is his dad. Okay. This is Donald Harris. So this is Kamala Harris pops. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is possibly, he's saying this is possibly her mom, Kamala Harris's. All right, bro. Stay with me. Stay with me. Let's figure it out.
I'm just saying, here's another picture of her, and there's something familiar about her smile. There's something familiar. I'm looking at this woman, I'm going, this woman looks to me like Kamala Harris. Now, something even weirder,
She got the same cheeks as that one woman.
Person who did create something for her online, okay, who created a profile for her on Ancestry.com, look what he put in the middle of her name. He lists her name as Vioris Anita Iris Cambridge. Fascinating. Iris Cambridge. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So we looked into this briefly. And again, all of this has transpired within the last 4 hours. So we are not as organized about this, or I shouldn't say, we are not as certain about this, but it looks like the person who made this entry was a member of her extended family. It looks like she got remarried in 1994 in America and that's where she picks up the name McPherson. And that individual put Iris in quotation marks. Is it possible that Donald J. Harris, when he's fondly remembering Miss Iris, could be speaking about this woman? Yeah, it's possible. Everything's a possibility. Like I said, he's very scant on the details here. What we do know is that he declined to mention this woman. He declined to mention someone that his father married who was completely white. And as I said, I wouldn't have an issue with this if people were forthcoming and spoke about this, the press, as your...
That is true though. I mean, and like I gave the excuse earlier that maybe he just didn't have a good relationship with his stepfather, which is why he didn't mention it. But you're not gonna not mention both of your parents, significant others, especially that they're married. So I mean, I can't. That actually is I mean, it's fishy nonetheless. It is fishy nonetheless.
Out there referring to Janet Jackson as crazy, right? For suggesting, what did Janet Jackson say? She said that she heard that Kamala's father, Donald J. Harris, was Irish. Can somebody pull up that picture of yours again? She heard that his family was Irish. I think Vioris, maybe Vioris Cambridge, might be Irish. Was she so crazy to mention that, press? Would it be so crazy if you guys did your actual job and looked into these things as opposed to constantly trying to obscure things to protect your preferred candidates because you believe she should just be handed this? Now the question is it possible?
It is true though. So like applaud, like I gotta get like a button thing to press, but like really kudos to Candace Owens for at least doing the research so we can have something to look into versus you got established media that people count on that no, it's true, but they said it. You have these people who didn't do any research who just comes out and just says Janet Jackson is lying. All because of what? Because Kamala Harris just told you that this is what you're not supposed to question anything. This is supposed to be the president of the United States. Why not actually do the extensive research to check their background and see what can or could not be instead of just attacking somebody and trying to make them seem crazy? But this world that we live in, this is why I'm so thankful for the internet and independent sources. This is why I like people like Candace Owens and also other independent news sources that I'll just be checking out. I don't consider myself to be really leaning on any side with any party because they both gonna do what they can do to sway your opinion. My main thing is about being independent, and part of being independent is being able to look at both sides and form your own opinion. And part of that means that if you hear somebody, Janet Jackson says I hear that she might be Irish, then we'll look it up and see. Any one of us could have done what she did. And I'm not gonna lie, I would have never did anything that Candace Owens just did here, but I would have watched it. That's why we're watching it right now. And you watching with me. Let's get to stepping.
That the woman that we're looking at right there is Kamala's grandmother. Is it possible, based on the records that we have, that Beryl and Donald never did marry? Is it possible Beryl and Oscar, never did marry? Is it possible, is it feasible that that marriage never took place and they both married two different people, and that instead, at some point when they decided to blackify Kamala's history, they included this Beryl as her grandmother? Is it possible? I don't want to go too far down conspiracy lane, but I'm telling you that we're close here. This is a big missing piece of her family history that should have been mentioned. Okay.
I agree.
And I
I think we all can agree. Nonetheless, regardless if she black, white, whatever she is, seems like this stuff should have been mentioned. Only reason it should have been mentioned is because why? You're running on identity politics. The fact that you're about to be a woman, the fact that you're a black woman and getting elected, like that's your whole MO. Like you got this whole book, the truths that we have, like this is your whole. So why not just mention this as well and let the people form their opinion on it? Especially since that's part of the reason why we look up to you and that we elect you, is because you're supposedly like us. Come to find out, who knows?
It highly suspicious. I do not think that we have answers still on who Donald Harris is. I do not trust him. I do not trust him. Just having discovered this information and realizing that he left out two significant marriages and is instead focusing on Kamala's great grandmother, referring to her as Miss Iris. Who is Miss Iris actually? I can tell you that, again, we came across all of this in the last few hours, but we're going to stay on them, because now that we have found this piece and we have found this white woman, and again, I'm not trying to call her out for being a white woman. I'm just saying that, like, she is a white woman. She's very white. And Janet Jackson was not crazy to suggest this. And now we know that somebody is putting her in quotation marks as Iris, and a picture is starting to come together. Let me say this. If, and I'm not saying this is true, but if we find out that that woman is Kamala's real grandmother, and can we get a side-by-side of Kamala? If we find out...
Oh, wait a minute. Yo, that cheek thing. You've been watching the whole stream. For one, I really appreciate you for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. But for two, you might have heard me talk about the cheek thing. She got those same kind of cheek things and those eyes a little bit. Yo, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, man.
That is...
I mean, somebody like me, it don't mean that much, right? Because, like, I'm kind of like, I mean, I ain't gonna cap. It would mean something, because, like, part of the reason why I was considering voting for it, I mean, like, you know, policies and all that aside, it's the fact that she black. Woman, cool, but it's the fact that she black. Like, that's the part that got me. She got some extra points in my book. I'm not gonna hold you up. I'm still like 51% Trump. Or 52%. I'm actually like 54% Trump after seeing this. I ain't gonna cap. 54% Trump, 46% Kamala, but she's still in the runnings in my book. You feel what I'm saying? But this right here, more niggas got to see this. I don't know. That's the thing with Candace Owens, bro. Like, she got her audience, which is great, but it ain't no niggas tuning in. Like, I mean, like, I wish like DJ Academics covered this or something. He probably can't though. This is actually serious. It's crazy.
Kamala's real grandmother, and that she decided to appropriate the domestic help who potentially died younger as her grandmother. We are watching one of the most diabolical political moves that we have ever seen in the history of this country. I just want to say that. I'm not saying it's true, again, but I'm saying that I don't like the picture. I always find that the dog that isn't barking, the fact that they never mentioned these marriages, the fact that they laughed people out of the room when they suggested that Kamala Harris could be white, and the fact that they just refused to mention any aspect of this and are remaining hush-hush on it, doesn't make me feel good. I don't trust these people. There's something about Kamala saying she's in these streets that doesn't make me feel that she's being honest about who she actually is. And I'm not going to let go of this. Again, we are getting closer and closer, and I will bet you the DNC is paying attention to this show now. All right, guys, before we cover some other
Ooh.
stories, I want to remind you about
Wait a
preborn.
minute
Kamala
though.
Harris is the
Candace threw this one up. Like she literally threw this one up. She didn't even do her chapter marks. She usually always does chapter marks with her stuff. Or maybe I just watched it really quick. Yo, I appreciate y'all big steppers tuning in, man. I feel like overall, like the biggest thing that we need to ask ourselves when it comes to Kamala Harris is, for one, does it matter? Right? We need to know, does it matter if she's black, white? I think we got to ask ourselves on the individual level, not as a collective, because everybody's going to have a different opinion. I think on the individual level, when you're deciding who you're going to vote for this year, decide that, does it matter if Kamala Harris is black or white, right? Because you be okay learning that you voted for Kamala Harris, but she wasn't black. She was just a woman. There's nothing wrong with being a woman, but she wasn't a black woman. And let's keep it a buck. That's what makes it appealing, you know, at least if you're black. If you're black, or if you're like a person of color, whatever you want to say, then you want to see a person of color and it being a woman. We already saw Barack, you know, he was a face, but you know, why not see her as well? So you got to decide if that matters to you. If it matters to you, then you really want to take into like just account that she may not be black. And that's a big thing if it matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you, then none of this really matters, except the fact that the character that you have as somebody you want to vote for. If somebody's going to lie about their grandmother picture, who that couldn't have been her grandmother because it's already been proven that she's dead, like that's been proven. If somebody's going to lie just to make it seem like she's more relatable to the black community specifically, right? It wasn't, she was trying to relate to the Hispanic community. She was trying to relate to black people, and not just black people broadly. It was like black people of culture. That's where she was talking about, like as far as Candace Owens, Kamala be trying to say stuff, trying to sound like she, like, you know what I'm saying? Like she probably be trying to say, like, you know what I'm saying? Like how I just said that, which like this is how I talk. But like what I'm saying is she be trying to like be on that time, but like she ain't really like that and don't be sounding natural. You can kind of just tell, just because when it's not natural, people can feel it when you bullshitting, right? Like people know when it's just not real. So that being said, some of the stuff that she do just isn't real. It's just not. And then she got Quavo talking, and her big thing is like no guns and no automatic weapons. Quavo always talking about Dracos. Like that's what he talking about. He's talking about Dracos. So what I'm saying is, bro, you're so pressed to appeal to the black community. And when I say black, I'm talking about inner city, African descendants of slaves, right? When you're so pressed to appeal to these kind of people, to my culture, this culture, that you put a fake picture of a woman in your book. So regardless if she black or white, then why would she do that? I mean, I guess we can sit back and say Trump has done bad things too, if you just want to compare them. I mean, supposedly Trump didn't pay his workers, right? If you just for the common person, for the common man, that's a big thing for you. If Trump didn't pay his people, right? He supposedly fixed up a casino, didn't pay nobody. All of these things, they definitely for certainly matter. Um, but that right there is something that's an opinion, right? If so, opinion is only, you don't know if Trump was paying them because of this reason or that reason. Maybe everything wasn't done correctly. If you read his book, The Art of the Deal, he speaks about how you should never compromise, especially if you're footing the bill. So he the kind of person that if it wasn't done right, then no, I'm not paying you. But they ended up getting paid. They just got paid a lot less than what they were initially supposed to be paid. But if it comes that it was just something muddy waters because they didn't do it the way he wanted to be done the first time, so he ended up suing him and not paying him, then that's a completely different story than her telling a blatant lie. And we're supposed to believe it and vote for her because she's black. And here's the thing, she light skinned, right? Like she yellow. So like that being said, like she looks black. People will look at her and just say she's black because she's yellow. I don't think it matters. Personally, I don't think it matters that much if that's not who you are, right? Like if she's really black, then let her be black. If she really not black, then I don't think you should go to the lengths of lying about who your grandmother is or just trying to appeal. That type stuff to me is like you obviously trying to persuade me. You're trying to like put a wool over my eyes. You're trying to put tie something over my eyes and make me believe you for no apparent real reason to vote for you. Like, why do you have to lie to me? If you were really a good candidate, then you don't have to lie. It's okay if you just Indian and Irish. If you're just Indian and Irish, that's completely fine if you're a great candidate. And you still be the first woman president, Kamala. So it's like you don't have to lie. You still be the first woman president, which is a hell of a feat within itself. And that was truthfully still make me consider to vote for you. Just if you was the first woman president. But to try to be the first black woman president and you're lying, now you're being greedy. Like now you being greedy. No, 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 no. Now you being greedy. Save the black title for somebody else. Let another black sister get in there. I'd be fine if it was a real black woman. We all know the difference between a real black woman and somebody who's not really of that ilk. You feel me? So I'll be fine if it was a real sister getting in there. And I'm like, all right, so we had Kamala Harris. Now we got, a real sister, whoever her name is. You know what I'm saying? I ain't about to get into the names, but you know what I'm saying? So that being said, I think that Kamala Harris, if you're not black, it's okay. Everybody will still love you. You still be a person of color, right? That's a big term these days. You're still a person of color. Nothing wrong with being a person of color, right? You'll be the first person of color woman president. That's a hell of a feat within itself. More than Hillary Clinton can say, right? She wasn't even the first president. So I think that you were the first woman first woman vice president. Yeah, exactly. You were the first woman vice president, bro. Just be fine with that. Don't try to come over into our world. Let us be black. Let us be black. Say what you want about Candace Owens, how she talk and how she think and whatever you may say, right? She's black. She's a black woman. When you look at her, you see a black woman through and through. Same with Janet Jackson. Kamala Harris, you might not be like us. I appreciate you guys tuning into the episode today, man. Until next time, as always, you know exactly what to do. Get the stepping, get the stepping, get the stepping. Be sure to tune in to the Do They Like Us segment of things. If you haven't already seen it, go check it out. Do They Like Us? Trump versus Harris 2024. We have a whole playlist of that. And like I said, man, for all my black people tuned in and for all of my, what I'm saying, I just want y'all to think about this. Like black people, white people, whatever. White people, you probably be feeling the same way. Like, but as this Haitian guy felt. I agree with your black take. As a Haitian, I always had a strange relationship with it. For I never knew how to properly address African Americans. Do I call them black, American, Africans, or African American? I always identified as Haitian, African, or melanated, but never associated myself as a crayon color. We're so much more than a color, guys. I always thought that with white people as well, but the biggest distinguishing difference that I've seen with white people is that they usually know their ethnic background as well, right? Like, yeah, I'm white, but I'm Irish, or I'm white, but I'm from Scotland, or like I'm white, but I'm from Europe. Like it's always that, but like they know exactly. But I only know that just because I was not raised, but like I went to high school with a lot of white people. So that being said, yo, like I've just seen a difference, and when it comes to us black people, let's try to figure out how to refer to ourselves as more than a crayon color, which I've been like some people think I'm like Hispanic or whatever. Like I'm not. And like as far as my complexion, like I'm like brown. If you want to just say like a complexion, I'm brown more than I'm black. So like should I just say I'm brown instead of just saying I'm black? But I think brown is safe for Indian people and like his Arabic people. I think they say that for the brown boys like that. But like I don't know, y'all. At the end of the day, man, you know what to do. Until next time, as always, get the stepping, get the stepping, get the stepping. Hey.